Mill Girls by Anne Casper. Table of Contents. Moving to the City, page 3. Life on the Farm, page 4. A New Life, page 5. Jobs at the Mill, page 6. A Day in the Life, page 7. Opening Doors, page 8. On Strike, page 9. Speaking Out, page 10. Women's Suffrage Movement, page 11. Creating Change, page 13. Important Dates in Women's History, page 14. Moving to the City. In the early 1800s, thousands of young women in New England left their farm homes. They moved to cities to find work in America's first textile mills. These mills made woven cloth from cotton that was spun into thread. Moving to the city was a big change for these women. Textile mills were large and noisy factories. Early textile mills were run by water power. Life on the farm. Before textile mills and other factories were built in New England, most women worked on their family's farm. Life on the farm was hard work. Women had to cook, clean, care for children, and help raise crops. Many also made their own clothing, soap, and candles. Women used to spin their own thread. Many workers spent their first earnings on new clothes. A New Life. The opportunity to work in the textile mills provided women with a chance to live on their own and earn their own money for the first time in their lives. In the 1830s and 1840s, these young mill girls worked in New England textile mills. They often lived in boarding houses owned by the factories. Jobs at the mill. The women had different duties at the mill. Some workers watched over spinning machines that spun cotton into thread. Others collected full bobbins of thread and carried them to the looms. There, weavers operated giant looms that turned thread into cloth. Loom. Bobbin. A loom was a machine used in textile mills to weave cloth. The bobbin was a part that held thread. Working in a mill meant that women were on their feet for hours. A Day in the Life. Imagine working at a textile mill in the 1840s. Your day begins at 5 o'clock in the morning. Inside the mill, it is hot and noisy, and the air is filled with lint. The machinery is dangerous. You might stand at a loom and tie broken threads again and again. After 12 hours, your shift ends, and it's time to go home. You are exhausted. Opening Doors. Although the work was exhausting, the textile mills changed the lives of the mill girls. Many workers spent their free time reading and attending lectures or talks. This showed the country that women were both intelligent and informed. Some workers even saved their money to become some of the first women to attend college. Mill workers in Lowell, Massachusetts published their own magazine. On Strike. As time passed, mill workers' lives became more difficult. Women worked longer hours and earned less pay. The factories also were dangerous. Some workers were injured when their arms or hands were caught in machines. In many cases, the mill owners denied that anything was wrong. To fight back, factory women began to organize strikes called turnouts. Some were well organized, while others were disorderly. The first turnout occurred in Rhode Island in 1824, when several mills announced that workers would have to work longer hours. speaking out. As mill workers learned about politics, they took their protests to the next level. In the 1840s, women could not vote, so they began sending petitions to the Massachusetts legislature asking for an amendment to make a 10-hour workday the longest amount of time a person could work. The law wasn't changed, but the women succeeded in getting their voices heard. In the 1840s, women working at mills in Lowell, Massachusetts, formed a group to protest low pay and poor conditions. This group, led by a woman named Sarah Bagley, became the first official group of women to work together to fight for better conditions and higher pay. Women's suffrage movement. Because women did not have the right to vote, mill workers did not get to approve the candidates who made the laws that affected them. For this reason, many joined the women's suffrage movement, a group that fought for the women's right to go to the polls and vote. Women in the United States finally won the right to vote in 1920. How women's work has changed. Before the rise of factories and mills. Housewife, child-caring, schoolteacher, servant. After the rise of factories and mills. Factory worker, telephone operator, nurse, secretary, schoolteacher. Today, doctor, lawyer, politician, journalist, firefighter, police officer, engineer, accountant, stockbroker, FBI agent, professor, archaeologist, astronaut, much, much more. Creating change. The story of New England's female textile workers shows how a small group can change the country. Throughout American history, people have fought for change. Harriet Tubman led enslaved workers to freedom on the Underground Railroad, and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. led the Civil Rights Movement. Maybe one day you will change the world too. Today, women in the United States can pursue any career they choose. Important dates in women's history. 1793. America's first water-powered textile mill opens. It was built in Rhode Island by Samuel Slater. 1822. First planned textile city developed in Lowell, Massachusetts. 1824. First turnout held by textile workers. 1844. Textile workers begin petitioning the Massachusetts legislature for 10-hour workdays. 1869. The National Women's Suffrage Association formed to fight for women's right to vote. 1920. The 19th Amendment gives women the right to vote in the United States. Nowadays, women not only vote, they can be mayors, governors, and much more. Responding. Target vocabulary, word builder. The word informed means in the know. What things do people use to stay informed? What things do they use for entertainment? What things can both inform and entertain? Write about it. Text to self. The mill girls felt strongly about getting their voices heard. Write a paragraph in which you describe something that you feel very strongly about. Use 2 words from the word builder in your writing. Target vocabulary. Amendment. Approve. Candidates. Denied. Disorderly. Informed. Intelligent. Legislature. Politics. Polls. Target strategy. Infer, predict. Use text clues to figure out what isn't directly stated by the author. Word teaser. What vocabulary word rhymes with something that woodpeckers make in trees?